Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Augusto de Oliveira, also known as Augusto the Dog Trainer. I'm the owner and founder of The Ultimate German Shepherds. And this video is different than any other video you have ever seen about me. I'm probably not going to be showing any dogs in this video other than whatever dogs that you may see walking in the background. But my point is, this video is going to deeply tell you guys where I came from and tell you my story. And out of all the videos and stories and articles you have written about me or may read about me, this is going to be the most detailed story and true story about where we come from and where we are at today and how we have gotten here. For simply being a dog trainer and a breeder, my story is a very deep story. Like, I feel like from everybody that I talk to, it's just like really kind of crazy, you know, some of the things I had to go through in order to just keep going. And for just being, you know, again, a breeder and a trainer, just the amount of attention that I have received and controversy and like being in the spotlight and just all that kind of stuff. We're gonna talk in details, but first I want to tell you guys where I come from, because being in the public's eyes like this, and being on social media, being seen by millions of people, like we are now at like over 30 million people on my channel, it really puts you in front of all these eyes, and people going to have different opinions and just kind of like base their opinion on, you know, a certain thing that they see. And I don't know, it's just like you expose yourself to a lot. Let's just put it that way. You just kind of expose yourself to being judged, you know, and being questioned and being all that kind of, like, people will love you, people will hate you. It's just the way it works. It's just the way social media works. And I learned that the hard way. But I want to tell you guys, I was born in the US and I grew up in Brazil. So my family is from Brazil. You guys may know I'm Brazilian, but you may not know like the details, you know, like I'm Brazilian by blood, but I'm actually legally an American citizen. I have a dual citizenship. I was actually born in the US, grew up in Brazil. My parents being from there, I got a citizenship in Brazil as well. So that's the real stuff right there. Because I get asked a lot, you know, and people are like, oh, he's just an immigrant or whatever. Not that it really matters, but I just want you guys to know my story for what it is. I grew up in Brazil, so I was born here. I was here for about only 2 years, and then my family moved back to Brazil, and I grew up there. So Portuguese is my first language, and English I only learned after I turned 18 years old and moved back to the US. So in Brazil, I grew up with my grandparents on a farm, very, very, very out in the country. Like, I live out in the country now here, but I'm talking about like we didn't have internet, we didn't have TV signal, we didn't have phone, no cell phones, no landline, nothing. All dirt road. Like, if you wanted to get to the hospital, like a police station, or even a school, the closest to where I lived was about an hour to get to a little village, a small village where they had a small hospital, a small police station, post office, all that kind of stuff, even grocery store. So that is like reality right there. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. All I had was my grandfather, my grandmother, my sister for part of the time, and then she moved back to the US. She has a similar story to me. She was born here and grew up in Brazil. She's 2 years younger, and then she moved back here before me, 2 years before me. And I never wanted to leave. I grew up on a farm. We had cows, horses, goats, dogs, all kinds of animals. My grandparents always rescued animals, and they actually had worked in the US, and then they moved back to Brazil, and they bought this farm so that they could retire there. So their plan was to just have a peaceful piece of land where they could spend the rest of their lives without being, you know, involved in so much drama and just, you know what I'm saying, like living, having neighbors and having being in a city can just be chaotic, and they just want a peaceful, like, little paradise for them to live. So that was their plan. However, they didn't realize that I would also be an animal lover. And from a very young age, we're talking about when I was like 12, I was running this whole farm for my grandparents. It sounds hard to believe, but I was like 12 years old. And when we moved to the farm, they basically sold the farm with like a few goats, some birds like chickens and ducks, and then my grandparents had some dogs, and we accumulated dogs over time because some dogs would just show up, you know. And whenever my grandparents would go visit family members in the city, they would almost every time come back with a new dog, because there's so many street dogs, like street dogs in Brazil. So they would come back with a new dog, and they would incorporate those dogs into the pack that we had. Just all our animals pretty much just roamed free on the property, on this big farm in the middle of nowhere. And my life as a 12-year-old boy was basically taking care of the animals. I loved it. Every kid on that small community dreamed of escaping that and going to a big city and having that a different life. I, on the other hand, came from a big city, and I just loved being there, and didn't mind not having internet, not having all the technology, and just living there with my grandparents and the animals. So as a 12-year-old boy, my grandparents didn't want anything other than peace on that farm. And I, on the other hand, was a young boy who wanted to create more, right? So they allowed me to basically run things on my own. So I would trade like a goat for, let's say, 20 chickens. And then I would get those 20 chickens and trade 10 of them for some ducks. And then I'm just really not exaggerating, that just kept going for a while. And then of course the animals would breed, and then I would trade those babies for a different kind of animal. And I'm not joking or exaggerating here. Within a few years, I had 9 cows, about 30 goats. I had 9 cows. I don't even know like how many horses and donkeys. Hundreds, I'm talking about hundreds of chickens and ducks and geese, guinea hens, all these different birds. The farm was like filled with animals. And of course, I also, it was a mixture of trading and then any money I could collect. Like, I guess, your grandparents, they will give you a little money here and there, for you to buy something that you like. I would put that towards new animals. And I became known like in the community for having all these animals. And I had my horses, and I would ride my horse to school. Like I said, the 1 hour to get to school, I would actually ride her. And then I had this friend near school that had a little fenced-in area where I would keep my horse, and then I would ride back home. Not every day, but just for fun. I was definitely different. So I lived there from about 12 years old until 18 years old. And throughout the last 3 years, from 15 to 18, I don't know, maybe 16 to 18, my family really wanted me to fly into the US and experience what it's like to live here, and maybe learn the language. They always talk to me like, you're not gonna have as many opportunities in Brazil. Like, we really want you to be successful. We want you to have more opportunities in life. And I just said, no, I'm not leaving the animals. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm happy here. And they're like, you can have your own farm one day. You can have all the animals, and if you keep just living here, you are basically limiting yourself to just this. So they went on and on for years about this, and my sister moved here, and I didn't. I did not want to give in, and I did not want to come here. And I really don't know, nothing really crazy happened, but one day I just woke up and I was like, okay, if you guys buy the ticket, I'll go for a little bit, and I'll go and just spend a little bit of time in the US then and see what it's like. within that same day or by the next day, my aunts that already lived in the US bought my ticket for me to come to the US. And I really had no idea what I was doing. I had never been on a plane other than when I was like 2 years old going to Brazil, so I didn't remember that. It would be my very first time traveling on a plane that I could like remember. So they bought my ticket on my 18th birthday. I flew to the US, but not before having to get rid of the majority of the animals. I had to literally liquidate all the animals. It was really heartbreaking for me I had to get rid of everything other than the dogs. I tried to keep some cows where I actually paid like board for them to stay there because I was thinking I would just be back, within a month at the most. So I paid for them to stay there. I got rid of everything else. I had 2 motorcycles. I actually have a big scar on my knee cap because I fell off a motorcycle. I was transporting the cows. Like in Brazil, we just kind of set the cows free and you guide them through the road to where they're gonna go. And on the way back home, I hit a ditch in the road and I fell and got stuck under the motorcycle, and I have this big scar. And the reason I'm telling you that is that when I moved here, I traveled with this big open scar. I don't know why. My parents are like, my family is just they're very honest. And like, they took me to a pharmacy that they knew the owner and the pharmaceutic to take care of it so that they wouldn't have to take me to a doctor because they knew the doctor would say, you cannot travel. But now that I'm like here, I'm like, why would that even matter? Like, there would just be a note from the doctor, but they're not gonna do anything like if I traveled. How would anyone else know, right? So literally, it didn't get, I didn't get stitches or anything. It was left open. And that's why I have such a big scar on my kneecap, and it's horrible. But anyway, I traveled with that big open sore, like I'm talking about a hole this big on my knee from the accident, and I couldn't fold my knee or anything. And I came here not speaking English, not knowing anyone other than my 2 aunts and my sister. That was it. So I didn't have one animal with me. So the first like 6 months were absolutely horrible. And I never knew when I was going back. Like, it was kind of like playing by ear, and I was already here. So I started working in a restaurant. So if you guys don't know, for the first 6 months that I was here, I worked as a dishwasher for 3 different restaurants. I was working like literally from 7 o'clock in the morning until like 2 o'clock in the morning the next day. Like, I'm not even joking. I was non-stop working. And I would get home and really feeling like horrible. It was not a good experience, but I also didn't quit because I needed the money. I wanted something for my life, right? I wanted to build something. So I was working as a dishwasher, and that's all I did. It was working as a dishwasher and then go home and sleep for a few hours and work again. And I took a course to learn English, and the first 6 months any free time that I had, I practiced learning English. So I actually learned English pretty fast. Not like that I was like really good at it, but I understood most things and I kind of could do my own things. So I learned pretty fast. I put a lot of effort into that. I knew it was gonna be important. So long story short, I got tired of it. Like, I just couldn't go anymore without not having an animal. And I think, and I know actually for a fact, my family didn't want to allow me to have any animals at all, like not even a fish, because they were already concerned that if I got any animal at all, that it could potentially escalate to where I would have a lot of animals, and they didn't want that. They didn't want to distract me. They wanted me to kind of do something different. I'm not saying that they were like mean or anything, but they just didn't believe in having a career with animals. It was brand new to them. Like, they just did not understand it, and they were thinking that I was going to be wasting my life away, just being involved with animals and not getting anywhere. They didn't see that as a career. So long story short, again, it took me almost a year before they finally allowed me to have one dog. They had to choose the breed, they had to choose the dog, and they had all these different restrictions, because if my aunts, they are animal lovers, but they really never owned one of their own, like, and neither has my sister. So like pretty much those three out of the entire family are the most strict with animals, because they don't want the responsibility. They love them, they will feed one off the street, they are very caring, but they do not want the responsibility of having an animal, okay? So they kind of wanted to pass the same thing to me, and it just doesn't work. I finally was able to get that first dog. So it was a Labrador puppy. Her name was Priscilla. And if you guys know me from like 9 years ago, you may even remember her. She was a chocolate lab. And I got her from a pet store. It's the only place I knew. And I basically started training her. I spent a lot of time training her right from the beginning. And this little puppy was amazing. She could do all kinds of tricks. She could bark answers to like math questions. She knew the difference between the left paw and the right paw. She could open and close the door. Like, she just knew a lot of funny, cool tricks, right? And I started taking her back to the pet store where I would demonstrate her training. And also that was like my hobby, is to just be out there working with her. And people really started to get amazed with what they were seeing. Now, let me go back a little bit here. So in Brazil, between going from the farm and the city, I also worked with a dog trainer. So if you're wondering like where my dog training knowledge comes from, a lot of it was because I was living with so many animals, and just, I guess, a natural gift that I have. And then the other part is actually working hands-on with the professional training company, helping them. So then I moved here, but again, I had no plans to ever stay here. So when I got that first dog and I started training her, I was just doing it for fun. And people started asking me to help them. I got so many requests, and like people were like, oh my God, I wanted to help me teach my dog the same thing. And I had no business skills, like no idea, what I was doing, other than I knew how to train dogs. So people started asking me, and I was like probably charging $10, $20 for hours of me spending time with them training their dogs. And people were so happy, they started referring me to their friends. And next thing you knew, I had a huge clientele as a not even 19-year-old boy from Brazil, barely speak English at the time. And, I mean, I could speak English, but like still everything was new to me. And I was getting all these different people to the point that I was actually able to quit my jobs and started doing dog training full time. This is when everything started. I actually was living underneath my aunt's house, and it was like a finished basement. And I basically, at one point, had 5 dogs living there. And for a few months, I'm not lying here, guys, for a few months, they didn't know. I know it sounds crazy, but they did not know I had 5 dogs, because I trained them so well right from the beginning, and I managed everything like according to when they are home and when they are at work, because they had like regular work schedules. And I managed to actually be able to have 5 dogs and make them think I only had one for a few months. Not until one day when my aunt came home early from work, and I had all 5 dogs loose in the house, as well as 2 other dogs that I was boarding for my clients. And my aunt flipped out. Like, she was like, I remember that day like it was yesterday. She was so, my family is like very intense with certain things, and like she was so intense. She was like, oh my God, like, whose dogs are these? And I was like, mine. And she thought I was joking. It's like, when are the one that's picking up the dogs? And I'm like, no, like, they're really mine. And it was like so awkward, because she was like so serious, and I was also serious. And what else would I tell her? Like, those were my dogs. They had nowhere else to go. So she was like so worried that she would get in trouble for even having all those dogs in her house. Like, they're very strict, like very like organized, and whew, it was something. So anyway, I remember she called the animal control on me. That was the first experience with an animal control, which then eventually became a regular thing for me. But she was the first person to actually call the animal control on me because she wanted to make sure that they knew she is not allowing me to have the dogs, and that we're gonna be getting rid of them. And the animal control basically told her that legally I could actually have those 5 dogs. I was right on the limit without even knowing it. So for that home, for that area, I could actually have the 5 dogs legally. And my aunt said no, he's only gonna keep one, only the original one, which I could understand. I mean, not, most people wouldn't allow you to have 5 dogs, so I understand. But this is where everything began for me. She basically made me get rid of the dogs and only allowed me to keep one. So the animal control told her that she had to give me some time to do it. She wanted them gone right away, and the animal control was like, no, you have to give him some time. Legally, you're gonna have to allow him to find good homes for the dogs. So what happened was, we had 30 days to get rid of the dogs. So in 30 days, it was like the worst time of my life, because I went from having no animals after I moved here, being very depressed, not knowing any friends, not knowing anyone, and then finally being the happiest by finally bringing back, something to me, like finally getting something back that I loved, which was to have animals. And I was spending so much time with those dogs. And at this time I was doing dog training full time already and had quit all the other jobs. So it was like the worst thing to do, it was to get rid of the dogs. But since I had to get rid of them, I was just about 19 years old, and I decided that it was time for me to move out. I didn't want to be restricted. I didn't want to be told what I could do and what I couldn't do because I'm living in someone else's house, because I'm basically dependent, partially dependent on family members or anyone else. So I knew it was time for me to pack up and go. So throughout that process of rehoming the dogs, I started looking for my very own place, right, where I could just be a little more independent. And by the time I was 19, I had a small studio, which I was able to rent from one of my dog training clients. And I was able to then restart picking up a pack of dogs. And this is where everything began with the German Shepherds. So I had experience with German Shepherds because when I was training with the dog training company in Brazil, they trained a lot of German Shepherds, so I was very familiar with the breed. And also, I had done a lot of research on many different breeds, and I had owned a lot of dogs. So I knew German Shepherds always popped up as the #1. And I really thought hard. I didn't want to just like jump into it. Like, even though I knew I really loved this breed, I wanted to research. So I thought and really thought about it a lot. And I decided it would be German Shepherds, because I already had a plan at that point that I would be a dog trainer and I would raise one breed of dog that I really loved. So I started selecting the right German Shepherds. And I started researching different breeders and started putting my pack together. So I quickly got up to 5 dogs again. Probably within the first 2 months of having my own place, I had 5 German Shepherds. And I started training the 5 German Shepherds, doing all kinds of tricks and training them to walk off leash. So very quickly, guys, things blew up. I was in the front pages of all the local newspapers. So like on Cape Cod, if you go and look my name on Cape Cod, I was on every single newspaper on the front page. People were always super amazed and happy to see me with the dogs. And my clientele was growing like on a daily basis. I had tons of people calling me. And I was being talked about in the radio. Every time I walked, like someone knew me through their friends. It was like, I was becoming very well known for walking the 5 dogs all over Cape Cod, Massachusetts on a regular basis. Then that went on for, let's see, I think about 2 years of me just doing that. And by that point, I had gathered a large following on Facebook, and also everybody in person knew me. Like I would go to a store and they knew me. Everybody knew me. I was talked about in every newspapers, every radio station, and I had been talked about on TV a little bit, some different small interviews. And then, um, let's see what happened. So I had the dogs, and I was doing that. I was just doing dog training for people, and I started having my own puppies. And then within a couple of years, I was up to 10 dogs, 10 German Shepherds. And I was living on my own, renting this old house from one of my clients, and he passed away. So he passed away, he had cancer, and he died out of the blue. Like, everybody was shocked, and he just died. I never even knew he was sick until he died, and I found out. So I get someone knocking at my door, and they're basically telling me that they understand I had the dogs there and that I have to leave because the management group that took over all the properties, they have a new policy that they don't allow dogs, pets at all. It's a no pet policy. And this was like the beginning of my nightmares that I went through. So I was like, what am I gonna do? I was desperate, I was afraid. I was still 19 years old. I did not have anywhere to go, and I had 10 German Shepherds at this point. So I was like really panicking. And I was researching houses. I was calling people like crazy. I was like on it, you know. I'm a fighter. Like I'm really a super hard worker, and I don't give up very easily. So when something like tries to get in my way, I actually fight harder to figure a way to get past that. So that's what I was doing. I was like calling everybody. I was like telling everybody. I was doing everything I could, and people started trying to help. And at this point, I hadn't really, I hadn't gone viral yet. So I had a lot of attention. A lot of people knew me, but it wasn't like, I wasn't as big as I got after that. So basically, I was amazed, okay? And I'm gonna tell you a little story here that why you should always work towards your goals. Like, you should always fight to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. Because at this given time, like, most people would have given up. Like, I know for a fact, most of you would have said, I have to get rid of the dogs. Like, they don't allow dogs, you know? Because it's not, you can't just call the very first house and get someone that will allow you to have 10 dogs. I mean, really, try to find a house that allows you to have 10 dogs right now. It's nearly impossible. So most people would have given up, right? So what happened next will shock you. After about a month of trying to find a place, I contacted someone, a private owner of a house, a few towns away from me, and they were this Russian older couple, and they said, come over and, you know, we'll talk. So I get there, and I'm trying to do a lease to own for this house. I get there, and they basically tell me this, that I don't have to do a lease to own, like, because they actually own the house in full. They don't have a mortgage on it, so they actually can own and finance the house to me. And I was 19 years old. Like, I didn't have any credit. I basically only had the money that I was making from working with the dogs, but I didn't have anyone to back me up, you know? And I was like, why would they ever do that? You know, even though they probably saw the potential in my business and they believed in me from what I had showed them, but still, like, that's kind of unheard of. You know, it's people like, I don't know, I just know for a fact it's not something that you find easily. They were basically offering to sell me the house without me having to get a loan from a bank, which at the time would be very difficult for me to do. So they wanted, I would give the money down, and then they would finance the rest. So I basically, that's what happened, right? I gave them half of the money down that they asked, and then I had 2 years to put up the other half. That's the only thing holding me from buying the house directly from them. And I would pay them rent every month. So I moved there with all 10 dogs. Now the bigger nightmare began, because of course I suffered that month with stress and anxiety and thinking what I'm gonna do, but nothing compares to what happened next. I called the new town because I had a kennel license for the 10 dogs in Harwich, Massachusetts. So when I was moving, I called the town and I asked them. At this point, I had, you know, found out that I needed a kennel license. So it was no longer like a mystery to me. So I called and I asked them, so I'm moving to this new house in your town, and I just need to know what are the requirements to get a kennel license. Literally, the woman on the phone told me this. Well, you move in there, and then you come in here, and you file, fill up the application, and we'll issue you the kennel license. I thought, well, that's easy enough, right? Because I really had not had any difficulty. The first place was exactly like that. I just moved in there, went to the town, said I have this many dogs, and they gave me a license. So I moved to Hyannis, and I went to apply for my kennel license within a couple of weeks. And basically, they told me that they gave me the application, and then they looked at me and they said that, well, you're in a residential area, so we actually don't issue kennel licenses for that area, so you cannot have a kennel there. And we're talking about a kennel is just the number of dogs. I was not really setting up any kind of kennels. All the dogs lived in the house with me. It was nothing like going to a kennel facility. It was more like kennel, anything over 6 dogs in Hyannis is considered a kennel. And a kennel needs a special license to own more than 6 dogs, right? So they wanted me to basically get rid of 4 dogs. So a big war began. I refused to rehome the extra 4 dogs, and I continued to do my thing. So throughout the 2 years that I was there, I had already given $10,000 to move into the house. It's a big commitment that I would not get back. I couldn't just move out, and also I was not about to get rid of 4 of my dogs. So I stayed and continued to fight with the town. And throughout the years, I got more attention. I started to grow more and more and more. So by walking on the main streets of Hyannis, I got to meet a lot of new people. I was then featured in more newspapers, more articles, and my videos started going viral. So one of my videos now has over 18 million views in one video alone. I was on TV, on Inside Edition and Chronicle, and I was like all over the news, right? Like all these different articles about me. And basically what happened was the animal control started noticing that, and he literally started to dedicate his life, his entire life, to me. I would wake up to his car parked in front of my house for nothing. Not for nothing, basically he wanted to see more than 6 dogs so he could give me a fine. Now, look at it this way, you're putting all that time and effort into basically harassing someone for doing something they love, even though maybe it wasn't like legal. I wasn't bothering anyone. The dogs were not bothering anyone. They never hurt anyone. They were living in the house. There was absolutely no complaints about my dogs. You have to keep that in mind. 0 complaints about my dogs up until this point. So the animal control started, he would show up at any given time. He would park in front of my house. He would actually tell people to not buy a dog from me because I was, or to do business with me because I was running an illegal kennel. And like, honestly, he was going out of his way, to prove a point. I understand like telling, oh, hey, you have to find another way, but he was so rude and so mean about it. He's told me this is not Brazil. Like, you can't do this here. This is not Brazil. And I'm like, it just always shook my head. But that was like this little older man that would show up to my house and harass me like on a daily basis. And it became so scary. Like, I was really scared because I started hearing like horrible stories about this man and the things that he has done, that I was afraid for my dogs. Like, he had it out for me for no reason. Like, I had not done anything to anyone. And basically, one time when one of the new articles came out, and it was a very nice and positive article, as every other single one had been, and everybody loved me up until this point. It wasn't until then that the animal control decided to contact them and let them know that I'm like this horrible person for running a illegal kennel. I had 4 more dogs than what I was allowed to have. And he then got this one newspapers to actually write a horrible article about me. So the Cape Cod Times actually wrote something along the lines like, will dog breeder take pause with 27 dogs? So 27 dogs, it counts, you know, you have my 10 dogs and then 2 litters of puppies that had 17 puppies that then would all be going to new homes. So they don't count because legally, even if I had only 6 dogs, I could easily accumulate up to 30 or more, you know, dogs counting puppies. But legally, they don't count until they're 6 months old. But they made it sound horrible. They also said that the town has been trying to kick me out. They said that I was an illegal kennel. They said that I kept my dogs inside a closet, which was basically a huge room with, I put closet doors, right? So that it was just the most convenient door to put there, but it was a full bedroom, not a closet. And Cape Cod Times said I was keeping my dogs in the closet. So people started reading that, and this is when a whole new group of people developed. A group of people that took advantage of that, and this were mostly all the dog trainers. I was a 19-year-old boy, and I had the most clients on Cape Cod. No one can deny that. I had the most followers of any breeder and trainer on Cape Cod at 19. And all these other breeders, I remember the little comments like, I have been doing this for 40 years, like you can't, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And my clients wanted to take pictures with me. They were happy. They were always posting amazing articles, amazing posts about their experience with me. And I think it really triggered those other local trainers and breeders that then took advantage of those articles, and they started blasting that, you know, this is why you shouldn't do business with him. He's running an illegal kennel. That's the best they could do, guys. I had 10 dogs. I had 4 dogs over the limit. Now it gets worse. So one day at 6 o'clock in the morning, out of the blue, even though I was kind of expecting it because it's been at this point like over a year of harassment from the animal control, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I get my house raided. Yes, I had my house raided by the police, the animal control, and all the town officials that basically pushed my door, nearly pushed my door open when I opened it a little bit. They had jumped the fence. I caught that on camera. The animal control jumped my fence, trespassing, and I guess they did have a warrant, so that you know, allows them to do that. And they came to my door, and I opened. They woke me up. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and they pushed the door open, and so they came into the house. Now, keep in mind that they raided my house in a town where people overdose with drugs all the time. Like, this town is known for having a huge number of homeless people, a lot of people doing drugs, a lot of people overdosing and dying on a regular basis in the very same town and all over the streets, right? And I'm not trying to be the victim here, but I was doing nothing to hurt anyone. I was just doing my thing. And don't mind that, that's one of the dogs trying to get in. But anyway, I was just a 19-year-old guy trying to do something, doing what I love, doing what I know how to do, doing something that was helping so many people. And this is a fact. People were so happy to have someone that could finally help them with their dogs. And they raided my house. And for what? To this day, they haven't even released what they found, because they didn't find anything. All they did, they found 10 very happy, healthy, well taken care of dogs, a super clean house, and that's it. No, that's it. But you know what they really wanted? Ironically, they wanted to prove that I was actually, in fact, running an illegal business, and obviously, you know, on the side of their heads, I'm sure they were thinking, oh, we're gonna find something horrible in there. But I had an open door policy. People could come to my house at any given time. I had people coming, walking in and out of my house every single day. I wasn't hiding anything. I never told the animal controls they couldn't come in my house. As a matter of fact, I had the female animal control, I don't remember her name, but she had come into my house. Like, I had never hidden my house from anyone. I never told anyone they could not come into my house. But for some reason, they thought if they surprised me at 6 o'clock in the morning, they would find something more. I don't know. But honestly, they went through all my paperwork, everything, and I was filming everything. If you followed me back then, you remember seeing this, obviously, on my Facebook. But they didn't find anything other than that, and really nothing came of it. They didn't do anything about it. Like, honestly, they didn't have anything, but they still did not stop harassing me. So even though they didn't find anything that they could use against me, they continue to harass me. The animal control officer continue to come to my house without any complaint. So he couldn't really knock at the door. He would just literally stalk me. Like, he would literally just park in front of my house, and I would take pictures of his van and post on my Facebook, and people started to really not like this guy because they were realizing that this guy was just like insane. So that went on for almost 2 years. Then I started to really feel for my dogs. Like, I started to get worried that something could go wrong, you know, like they could hurt my dog. Like, this guy was, at this point, it was like a big competition for him, and he was willing to prove a point. He literally told me one day, I have been doing this for over 30 years and you're not going to win, right? So obviously he was treating this as a big competition. It was a matter of him proving a point that I could not do it, simply because he told me in the first week or so that I was there that I could not do it. And because of that, and I said, I'm not gonna get rid of 4 dogs, he thought that I was like fighting him or something. Like, it's my dogs, like, who would want to get rid of their dogs? I wasn't like challenging you, you know? But apparently he took it personal, and that's why he was treating me the way that he was treating me. I paid thousands of dollars in fines because of him. Every time he saw extra dogs, he would fine me. If he heard a dog barking from his van, he would fine me, even though he would come and harass the dogs, so they would bark at him. But anyway, I lived, I survived. It restricted me a lot from things that I could be doing because I was always watching. You know, I had to be like on guard because this guy could come to my house and maybe let my dogs out. He could do something, like, I don't know. I had heard horrible stories about him. So then we are now at, hold on, I didn't like write anything down, so I'm trying to remember so I don't tell you something that's not accurate. So this was like 5 years ago, so like 2014, between 2014 and 2015 is when I had one of my customers, my clients at the time, offer me to move into her house and share the property, her 98-acre property, with her and my dogs. Bring my dogs and share, you know, the property with her. So I didn't want to leave my own space, my own house, you know, to go. But I was doing something that I knew would be necessary for my dogs. No one wants to move into someone else's house, right? So I'm not saying here that there wasn't anything wrong with her or the house. It was just a matter of, you want to have your own space. You don't want to go back, you know, to then living with someone else. But it was either that or nothing. It was either that or I continued to fear that something may happen to my dogs, you know, because the town is being like this. So I moved there, not before the people that now had created their own group of like haters followed the bad article, the misleading bad article, the very misleading bad article that Cape Cod Times wrote about me many years ago. They had gathered their own group, and now they were actually trying to fight the new town to not allow me to move the dogs there. So up until that point, their biggest concern was that I didn't have a kennel license, right? So that's the only thing they had against me. And I was like doing really well with my dog training, 100% satisfaction guaranteed, and everybody was like happy, spot on, like amazed and happy. So the only thing they had to say is that I was running an illegal kennel. You know, call it what you want to. I guess it was called an illegal kennel at the time. So then they started to harass the new town, the new neighbors, and even the person who was allowing me to move there with her. They got calls, emails, letters from these people telling them to not allow me to move there because it would turn me into a puppy mill. Because they thought if I had more land, I would then just start breeding more dogs, which wasn't the case. I had a lot of dogs because I liked having a lot of dogs. I had 10 dogs because I liked having 10 dogs. They were very high quality dogs. I have never just bred any dog, right? My dogs have always been very high quality, expensive German Shepherds. So anyway, with all that being said, I had to fight for 3 months, guys. 3 different open meetings where people would show up from any part of the country, I'm not even exaggerating, to basically voice their opinion on whether they think I should be allowed to have a kennel or not, even though they didn't even live in the same town. So the town officials were like kind of in shock because this was also a small town, and people were like, why there are so many people? Why are there so many people? Literally, they received thousands of emails from both haters and supporters, because at this point I was posting to my supporters to tell them what was happening, that these people were trying to scare a new town away from me with telling them lies. Like literally they twisted everything that I had posted on my social media up until that point. They twisted everything. Like they took my posts, guys, and they took off the writing, like the descriptions, and they took the pictures to say that it was something else, and it was really like an eye-opening. I was still only like 20 years old, and it was like maybe 21, but anyway, I was like a young guy, and basically they were twisting everything and making the people that didn't know me, like the new neighbors and the town officials of the new town, they were in shock, and the first meeting someone showed up with 40 pages of things that she twisted. I'm not lying here. She twisted 40 pages of my own content to make them look like something different. And this was like a dirty puppy area where I was showing like how dirty puppies are, and then showing it like, a picture next to it of like 5 minutes later after I cleaned it. They took the picture from 5 minutes later and they said that my puppies live in filth like that. So they twisted so many things, 40 pages of that. And I had, a few people in my favor there. I didn't really have a lot of people. There was one person against me and like a few people in my favor. So the second meeting, we had to come back stronger. So by the second meeting, we had a lot of people. We had, I don't even know, like a couple dozen people to speak in my favor. And there was, the girl was back there, and literally my attorney at the time completely embarrassed these people that were trying to twist things. She twist everything. She literally brought like triple the number of pages showing exactly what they did to the evidence that they had to make me like the bad guy. She proves them completely wrong. And the people who came to speak in my favor, they were like giving heartfelt testimonies about their experience with me. And it really, I was just sitting watching, and I remember to this day, like the town officials' faces, like they knew that these people were genuinely amazed and happy and true supporters because they really believed in me. And also because my attorney had proven the other people completely wrong and embarrassed them, because she showed how big of liars they are and how they twisted everything. They decided that this was like really, they basically what they did is they chose to do another meeting after that, and throughout that whole month that I had to wait for the third meeting, they would come to the property. They would do certain things that it's out of protocol for a kennel license. Before a kennel license, the town officials themselves don't come to the property to see your dogs, but they decided that they wanted to come because people would say my dogs were aggressive, like all these crazy things that were just absolutely not true. And the town officials did come to the property after inspecting and everything. We had a third meeting. By the third meeting, there was literally no one else other than my supporters. Everybody else had given up at this point because they just knew they were embarrassed and proven wrong at the second meeting. So the town officials allowed me that day to have a kennel license for 25 dogs. So that includes any training, boarding, my own dogs, older dogs, anything, any dogs over the age of like 3 months, I believe, for that town, counted as one of the 25 dogs. So I lived on that property in Hanson, Massachusetts for 2 years, exactly 2 years. So I renewed my license 3 times. I got the first one and then another one, and then I renewed one more time, and then right after I renewed it, I actually ended up moving from there. Now, I was there for 2 years. I had 98 acres. I had no complaints from the neighbors or the town, anything like that. Some people still continue to call the animal control, but that very quickly died off because the animal control now in this town couldn't really say anything because I had a kennel license and I was doing everything according to how I was supposed to do it, So people would make random complaints because, yes, you can call the animal control on anyone or any kind of official, like that is responsible for inspecting certain businesses or establishments, and they have to come out and inspect. So if you call and it's a new complaint, they have to come out and check. So I had them come into my house all the time. And this was for things like his dogs are killing chickens, his dogs are eating each other, he's transporting farm animals illegally, like all these crazy things. Everything that I post, like if I posted I had, like my dogs are eating raw, right? I feed raw. So I'll post them eating a chicken that they never killed. It was just, I talked about this openly all the time. I don't let my dogs kill anything, but I do feed them a whole prey diet sometimes. So I would have to now, prove to the town officials that I got the chicken already dead. I never let my dogs kill anything. They saw a picture of my dogs eating like a goat carcass, and they said they were eating another dog. I would post I would post a picture of my dogs eating another dog on social media, right? Or I would even see that, that's just anyways. I don't know if these people really believe those things or if I don't know what their motives are sometimes, but it's really crazy. They go above and beyond. Every time I got a new animal, they would say that I transported it illegally, so that they have to come out and inspect, and investigate. So to this day, I have never been charged for anything. I have no criminal records. I have never been arrested in my entire life. I have never really never got in trouble with the law. I really try not to do anything that is illegal. I'm really careful to be careful, just do the right things. I try to do the right things all the time. So these people were still treating me like I was some kind of horrible criminal, and none of them actually knew who I was. They still really don't know who I am. These people don't have first-hand experiences with me, and maybe they come out and they see me one time, and so they can say they actually were present with me. But really, these people don't have any kind of serious experience with me. Most of them have never met me. Most of them don't even live in the same state or the same country. But they, to this day, follow and stalk me. It's been 9 years. I'm doing just fine. After the 2 years, I decided to move because I wanted to have my own space. So that was 2.5 years ago on December, 2 Decembers ago, right? So this December will be 3 years. 2.5 years ago, I moved from Massachusetts to South Carolina after I found a place that I found to be ideal for my dogs. So I moved here, and it's been 2.5 years, and I have had no problems. I am completely licensed and inspected. The animal controls are very familiar with me. They are very familiar with how social media works. They know I'm completely inspected by the American Kennel Club, the Animal Control, the SPCA, Department of Agriculture, you name it, they have been out here. All right, because that's just how it works. When you're in the public's eyes, these people will take advantage of knowing you, and also they use my name a lot as for clicks. Unfortunately, when I got so many views and so many followers, anything that had my name attached to it, it got a lot of people watching. So especially if it was something that was controversial, people were really happy and loving my training. So if they could post something that made it look like I was something else, it got people watching. So it's just how it works. If you follow your favorite celebrity or your favorite YouTuber or social media influencer, you know they have people that don't like them. No matter how much you love them, there will be people that don't like them. I have since then learned it the hard way. I was 19 years old. I had my very first cell phone at 19 years old. I had access to internet for the very first time in my entire life at almost 19 years old. So before then, I had no idea about any kind of social media at all. I had no access to internet or cell phones or a computer. So this was very shocking to me, right? And I also lived in the middle of nowhere in Brazil with very little experience with real life and dealing with people. So to receive so much love and also so much hate at the same time was very shocking to me. And I had to learn to live with it. And really, I think I have mastered that. I am pretty successful in what I do. I can have my dogs and I know the ins and outs of what I'm required to do. I have the best dogs now in the country as far as bloodlines go. My dogs are extremely well known. People really love my dogs when they see us. And I travel around the country for training. I actually travel around the world for training. I have been to a few different countries when clients actually hired me to go help them. And I have traveled throughout the country a lot. I plan on doing more traveling. The next trip is to Minneapolis, Minnesota, coming up this month on the 23rd to the 26th. So I have people, that are really there for me, and I really appreciate that. I think also by me fighting all these barriers that were putting in my path, it really has set me as an example for people that you should always keep fighting for what you believe in. Try to do the right thing. Fix some things that you need to fix, because I'm not perfect. I wasn't perfect. I have made mistakes. There are some things that needed to be changed, and every day I work hard on changing those things. But at the same time, don't give up. And when you do all those things to be the very best that you can, and someone is still out there throwing rocks at you, don't let them get to you, and just really fight hard for what you believe in. If you're doing the right thing, you're not doing anything illegal, you're not hurting anyone, keep doing what you're doing, because that's the only way that you will succeed, and you will succeed if you do that. Don't give up so easily, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes things don't happen as quickly as you want, and they don't go the way you want right away. But if you keep pushing it, they will fall into place, like it has for me. And still, I am nothing compared to what I know I'm going to be. So you guys have to keep watching, subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share my story, because it's a true story. And I'm sorry if I missed, this is a very random video. I just decided to sit down and tell you guys a little bit about me that you may not know.